Logan is the latest and final outing for Hugh Jackman as the iconic character of Wolverine. We've seen him play this character for many years now in many different films, and now here we are with Logan, quite possibly his very last go in the role of Wolverine, as well as Patrick Stewart's quite possible last appearance as Professor X. Now, going into this film, I was really excited because obviously I'm a big fan of comic book movies. I absolutely love superhero films, but what really excited me about this film, more so than any X-Men film that had ever come before it, was that it was a comic book movie that was trying to do something very different. Because I love pretty much all the X-Men films apart from The Last Stand and Origins. I think they're really great, but with Logan, just from the trailer alone, you could tell that it was going to be something quite different, that they were going to do something very different from any other X-Men movie that had come before it, and that's what was really exciting me about this film. I absolutely love the trailers. I think both of the two main trailers that they released were fantastic. I don't think I've been this excited to see a comic movie since the Avengers. Obviously, it wasn't a 4-year wait like we had for the Avengers, but I was just so unbelievably excited to check this movie out. I finally got the chance to see it last night, and I'm really happy to say that, yes, believe the hype, this movie was really great. What I've got to say straight off the bat is that this was a very different kind of comic book movie, and that's what I love so much about this film. And a lot of people going to this film are going to be really taken aback, I think, and really kind of shocked at how different this is, because even me, as someone who really knew that it was going to be something really quite different, and I'd seen the trailers and I knew from what people were saying that it was going to be something very different and they were really going to go for it, even for me it was shocking. Like, I was really taken aback by really how quite different this film was, and really how much they went for it, because I knew it was going to be different. I knew they were really going to go for it and they weren't going to hold back, but my god, believe me when I tell you, they really don't hold back in this film. They really go for it, and that's what was just so great. And a lot of people might be taken aback and might be kind of shocked, and kind of maybe they might not like the fact that it's so different, but for me personally, I absolutely love this film for that, and I think it was such a great decision to go in that direction. There's going to be a lot of average moviegoers that are kind of just happy with kind of like The Last Stand and X-Men Origins and those kind of things, that they just like big dumb action movies like Transformers and Fast and the Furious. This isn't the kind of film for them. This film is for the hardcore fans, the people that really love the character, the die-hard fans of the movies that will appreciate the character and the story in a very different kind of film to what we've seen before, and that's what I love so much about this film. Okay, we've kind of gone close to it before with like Bryan Singer's early 2 X-Men films, which I think are great, especially X2, and the Wolverine kind of went into the territory of being more kind of real and grounded and serious and dramatic, but they kind of chickened out with the climax. The third act was very kind of just generic and silly and comic booky, you know. Up until that point it was really good, I thought, and I still liked the third act of the Wolverine, but it did kind of become just a bit of a generic, you know, blockbuster action movie at the end. Whereas this film, they go all in the entire way from beginning to end. They really go for it, and that's what I love so much about this film, because as I said, the Wolverine came close, but this film, they just go all out. Seriously, from the very first few seconds of the film, from the opening scene, it's completely different straight away, right off the bat, and I love that. They don't hold back. They don't like ease you into it. They literally just get straight into this new version that we haven't seen before, because yes, it's still Wolverine, it's all these characters that we've seen before, but what this film did so well is that it had these characters, but it told the story of these characters and their relationships in a much more human, grounded and real way than we've ever seen before. Because, as I said, some of the other movies in the X-Men series have come close, but what this movie did is that it really grounded the film in much more of a kind of realistic, real-world setting. Yes, it's kind of like a dystopian, futuristic setting, the 2029, but it really does feel like a real world, much more than any other X-Men movie that had come before it, because obviously there's a lot of fantastical elements still, these larger than life characters with the cool, crazy, fantastical superpowers, but seriously, as much as I love all that stuff, and the action is really great in this film, I'll get onto that in a minute, even if you take away the superpowers, this film still works. And a lot of big blockbuster comic book action movies, they really rely on the effects and the action. This film, what was so great about it is that even if you put aside the action and the effects, it still works as a really great film, because what this film was essentially at its core was a character drama, and that's what I love so much about it. It's what I liked about the Wolverine, and it's what I liked about this, and even more so with this, because they, as I said, they really go for it. If I ever get into an argument with someone who is not a fan of comic book movies, I think they're all just generic and formulaic and all the same and just dull and boring, I'll say, watch Logan, then get back to me, because this is really the perfect example of a comic book movie that doesn't really feel like a comic book movie. I mean, there are comic booky elements to it, as I said, the powers and all of that, but what this made this film so great, it's essentially an indie drama. It almost felt like it felt like a lot of the time an independent drama take on a comic book movie, and I absolutely love that, because it's what I love so much about comic book movies, and especially the X-Men movies. I really love the characters and the interactions between the characters and the relationships between the characters, and this movie really is all about that. So if you're a die-hard fan of these characters and really love these characters in these movies and the relationships they have and the performances by the actors, then you're going to love this movie, because it really showcases that, and it's really all about that. As I said, it is essentially a character drama at its core, and I absolutely love that. But of course there is some really cool action sequences, and I love how it blended genres as well. It was a kind of family drama almost. It was also a road trip movie for a lot of the film, and it was also a kind of like crime western also. I mean, it was just so great. Really, that's what I love so much about it. I mean, it was a comic book movie, but it didn't really feel like a standard generic comic book movie, and that's what was so great about it. Now, before I get into the action, believe me, there is some really cool, great action in this film. I don't want to avoid that, but before I get onto the action, I've got to talk about the performances, because as I said, this film, a lot of it revolves around the characters, and the performances in this film are flat out just spectacular. I don't think it's going to get nominated for any awards, the Oscars or anything. I don't know if that's going to happen with a comic book movie anytime soon. I mean, I would love for that to happen, but seriously, I can't see how any other comic book movie could get nominated other than this, because it really is, as I said, a comic book movie that doesn't feel like a comic book movie. It's like an independent drama almost, in terms of how it feels. The thematic realism there, it feels more real. It doesn't feel like a stereotypical, over-the-top, silly comic book movie. And I love comic book movies, obviously, but this film was so great because it felt more grounded, because it felt more real, because it was a very grounded human story at its core. And what really helped bring that across was the performances. The actors were all so incredible. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, I mean, seriously, every time he turns up as that character, he knocks it out of the park. But this might be his best performance yet in the role, because as I said, it's a very different kind of interpretation of the character. I mean, I would argue that this is probably the most accurate depiction of the character we've ever seen before. Not that Wolverine's not been depicted accurately in the other movies, but this is just really the most accurate depiction I think we've ever seen of Wolverine so far in the movies. And what I love so much about this version of the character is that it's very different from any kind of version of Wolverine we've seen in any of the other movies, because when we first introduced to Wolverine in this film, it's a very different kind of Wolverine. He's just battered, he's bruised, he's old, he's tired, he's angry, he's bitter, he's not functioning as well as he used to. He's not this invincible, amazing kind of functioning machine anymore. He's suffering, and I love that, because it gave the film much more, as I said, a grounded human feel to it. These characters were probably more humanised in this film than they ever have been before, especially Charles as well. I think we haven't seen Charles this fleshed out and developed since Days of Future Past. Days of Future Past, I was really able to connect with Charles and understand his character and his motivation. That amazing scene with Charles talking to his older self. But in this film, I think this might be the best performance of Patrick Stewart as Professor X we've ever seen, because again, like Wolverine, but even more so with Professor X, this is a very different version of Professor X, like completely different. He's not this wise Zen-like leader, completely in control and really stable and serious. This is, I don't want to spoil anything or reveal the kind of what the actual depiction of the character is in this film, because it's really brave and bold and ambitious and daring, and I loved what they did with the character of Charles in this film. But it's a really different version of Professor X than we ever have seen before, and Patrick Stewart did such a great job in the role, because before he's never really had that much to do as an actor in this role, but with this film he's got so much to do, because it is a very different kind of interpretation of the character than we've ever seen before. And there's so many things they did in this film with Charles I don't want to really get into because I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's so many things they do in this film with his character that I absolutely loved and thought was just ingenious and incredible, and Patrick Stewart did a phenomenal job. But as amazing as Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart were, I've got to talk about the standout here, and it is Daphne Keane, the young up-and-coming actress who plays Laura in this film, the young mutant, and she really is remarkable in this film, because I'm pretty sure this is her first major role in a big film. Maybe she's done some stuff before, but I think this is her first role in a really big movie, and she is just flat out extraordinary in this, because a lot of people might overlook her performance and talk about Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, and they were absolutely spectacular in this film. But Daphne Keane was really incredible, and I've got to give credit where credit's due, because the large majority of her performance in this film is non-verbal. There's a lot of physical acting required on her part, and she really sells it. It's not unconvincing, not for 1 second. It is so utterly believable, her as that character. She really sells it, because if she didn't do as good a job as she did, we wouldn't have been able to buy into it, even with the effects and the action. But she really sells it so incredibly well that it's just so utterly convincing and believable. She does a fantastic job. As I said, a lot of her performance is non-verbal. It's a lot of physical acting, and as I said, this isn't only her first big role in a film, but it's a really tough role, because a lot of it's non-verbal, a lot of it is just physical acting. And what she does in this film with the physical performance, with body language, facial expressions, she does a fantastic job at really selling this character to us, and I've got to give her a massive amount of credit, because she did an amazing job. Seriously, she really came across as such a kind of mature, experienced actress, and I'm pretty sure this is like her first film. She just really blew me away, so I've got to give massive props to her, because she did a great job. And of course, I can't do this review without talking about the action. The action in this film is unlike anything you've ever seen in any X-Men movie before. Maybe in any other comic book movie. I mean, we've had some R-rated action movies before in the comic book genre, like Dread, Watchmen, Kick-Ass. But those films, they do have a degree of kind of like fun, entertainment, escapism to them, where they're not really like real life in a sense. What this film did is that it really felt a lot more real and grounded. When we're seeing these action sequences go down, it is just so unbelievably visceral, riveting and intense. And even though I love all the other stuff, all the character stuff and all the dramatic elements of this film, when the action sequences kick in, oh my god, the film just goes up a gear into a league of its own, and it is just so unbelievably riveting and exciting. And I like the action in the other X-Men movies, but this, it just has to be hands down the best action we've ever seen in any X-Men movie, because they just really go for it. And you may be thinking, oh, it's only going to be a little bit bloody, it's only going to be a little bit violent. Trust me when I say, and I wasn't expecting this to be the case, but this really is a really bloody, violent film, and I love that, because it's more realistic. There's people slashing people with claws. Like, there's gonna be a lot of blood, it's gonna be gory and violent. It's like, it doesn't really make sense in the other movies. There's loads of slashing with claws and there's like no blood, you don't see anything. And this film, it is very bloody and violent and gory. Seriously, I'm surprised it didn't get an NC-17 rating. I'm surprised that here in the UK it didn't get an 18 certificate, because it really did feel at times like an 18 film. I'm like, how the hell did they get this down to a 15 rating? It's like, because I don't want to spoil anything, but we see things in this film that are just really bloody and gory and violent, and I loved it. I loved that they really went for it. I mean, it took a massive amount of guts on the filmmaker's part and the studio's part to go as far as they did in this film. And if Deadpool did open the door for the R rating for this film, then I'm so glad for the success of Deadpool, because it just worked so well. The violence, the language, it all felt natural to the story and the characters. It didn't feel out of place or jarring at all. It all really worked, and it just made so much sense, and it was just absolutely fantastic. I loved it. I don't really have anything major that I didn't like about the film. You could argue there was some pacing issues and it was quite slow paced in parts, but I would argue for the most part this film is a slow character drama, so I think the pacing worked. It wasn't some really ultra fast paced, frenetic, hyperkinetic film, so it made sense the fact that it was slower paced. and it wasn't ultra fast paced. And for me, the pacing worked. Sure, there were some moments that were a little slow, but I like those moments, and for me, the pacing wasn't an issue. You could argue the villains weren't that strong. I thought the villains were really great. I think Boyd Holbrook did a really great job as Donald Pierce. And what I liked about the villains in this film is that they weren't like really over the top, kind of flamboyant, comic booky villains. They felt like real people. Richard E. Grant as the main villain behind the scenes, he didn't really get that much to do. I mean, he served his purpose. He's kind of like, he didn't really need to be there almost, but you know, I don't really have that much criticism with the villains, because as I said, the film isn't really about the villains. It's about Logan, it's about Charles, it's about Laura, it's about the relationships between these characters, and it's about family, and it's about drama. And yeah, so the fact that the villains weren't spectacular, didn't steal the show, wasn't really a problem for me. I think they served their purpose well, and I did like the villains in this film. So overall, Logan was just absolutely amazing. I mean, it was a really different kind of comic movie, very different to any X-Men movie we've had before, and very different to any other superhero film we've ever had, in terms of feeling much more real and grounded, and telling a very kind of human story at its core, with very kind of real world human themes and issues that were dealt with. Like, it didn't feel like a stereotypical generic comic book movie, with absolutely fantastic performances from Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, and the young actress Daphne Keane. This film was really incredible, and I would just persuade everyone to go out and see this film, even if you're not a fan of comic book movies, because I really feel like this is the perfect film for people that don't like comic book movies. Because I think people that love comic book movies and love the character will love this film, but I think people that aren't that big of a fan of the genre will love it as well. So there we go. I obviously really enjoyed this film. I thought it was really great, and okay, I had some little nitpicky issues here and there, but for the most part I think this film was absolutely fantastic. So just screw it, I'm going to give Logan 5 stars. Yes, my first new release of 2017 that I've given 5 stars to, if you're not counting the awards films that carried over from last year, 2017. I thought it was really great. I just love how this film took so many risks and did things you really didn't expect. Seriously, there's things that go down in this film. I don't want to mention anything. I might do a spoiler talk, but there's things that happen in this film that you really don't see coming, that really take you off guard and really take you by surprise, and that rarely happens with comic movies. And I just love the fact that they really went for it, they really didn't hold back, and they weren't afraid to really kind of do something radically different, and I really love this film for that. So there we go, that wraps up my review of Logan. Have you seen the film yet? And if so, what do you think about it? If not, what is your favourite X-Men or Wolverine movie we've had up until this point? And as always, if you like this and you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to see more. But for now, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.